Hi, I'm Tracey Soltis.
And I'm Kali Alfaro. And you're listening to the Mind Body Studio, a place for anyone who wants to reach their full potential, thrive, and create a life filled with vitality.
Each week, we'll bring you our expertise, giggles, and a splash of quirky to explore real and relevant topics to help you along your life's journey.
We'll bring you science, psychology, and practicality to real life issues.
So, thanks for listening. We know you're going to love it. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone's been having a great week and enjoying this cool change that we've had. It's certainly gotten cold very quickly, hasn't it?
It really has. I noticed it in my morning swims.
I know, because you text me the other day and you're like, are you going to come for a swim? And I'm like, no, I'm definitely not going to go for a swim. It's just too cold for me. Is it getting colder, right?
It's getting really crisp, to say the least. But you know what? The actual water is not that much colder. It's the wind when you get out.
Yeah, right? That's the killer, isn't it?
And
the wind.
Cold sand.
Yeah, I feel like my toes just like go really numb.
You wake up, that's for sure. So, talking about waking up, welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to talk about your values.
Yeah, establishing your core values because sometimes, we rarely have time to really reflect inward and work out our value system and what that looks like, what's important to us, because we're usually so busy doing so many external things. And then sometimes we reach a point where we become unhappy because we're in certain jobs or doing certain activities that don't make us happy. And that's usually to do with the fact that we aren't coming from an authentic, honest, truthful space when it comes to what is important to us. So that's why we thought we'd have a chat today about how we establish our core values.
I want to talk to people about why it's important to live a life that represents what you value. So in today's world where stress is the number one killer, right? And people are overcommitted, they're under huge amounts of pressure socially, financially, environmentally. Living in according to your value system can be a really beautiful way of honouring yourself. And it can also be a way that buffers the effects of stress on daily life. So a lot of people put a lot of time, I find this fascinating. A lot of people put so much time into planning a holiday, right? And generally stuff goes well. You know when you're going, you know what kind of transportation you're going to take, whether it's a plane or a boat or you're driving or a train. And you kind of go through all of the things that you want to do, the things that you like, the people you want to, go with. And so generally, unless you have some kind of freak accident, God forbid, holidays go really well. But very few people plan their lives, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So I want you to think about the fact that most of us spend more time planning a holiday than we do planning our life.
Yeah, that's true. Like we rarely sit down and go, okay, what are the things that bring me joy? What are the things that I really love to do? What are my goals? What do I want to achieve? All of those things, we kind of just get on with it, don't we? We're just like day after day. Yeah, right? Autopilot. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
And that can seem like as if you're on like a little, rat race kind of thing. You're on this wheel and you're just going, backwards and forth and whatever. But one of the reasons why holidays are so amazing is because it gives us relief and reprieve from our daily lives. But I want you to think about if you put a little bit of effort into getting to know yourself, your life on, a smaller scale can sort of represent a bit of a holiday. So understanding what you like, what you value, and then dedicating time to it on a regular basis, not just one-off when you're already burnt out, right? And you're going on holidays and you spend the first 3 days thinking, unwinding from that high stress.
It's so true.
Right? And then you enjoy the 3 days in the middle and then you start worrying about what you can do when you go back.
It's
right?
so true. Yeah. It's incredibly true because whenever I go on a holiday, like my hubby knows at the moment that we check in somewhere, I have to unpack. Like I have a set routine.
Oh, we
like
know,
I literally,
Tracey. We know.
I can't help it. Like, because I can't relax unless everything is away and in its place. Like, I can't live out of my suitcase. You know how some people can go away and they can just like throw open their suitcase and they basically just live out of their suitcase and it gets all messy and things get, no, I can't do it. Everything's got to go in the bathroom. The clothes have to be hung
Whatever
up.
rocks your boat,
Whatever rocks your boat, right? As long as it's relaxation, because then I can relax. But anyway, let's get back to the point. So what I feel like I hear you saying is what we need to do as a very first step of is establishing our core values is to do some self-reflection.
Absolutely.
So for me, it's about thinking about the key moments in your life when you've been truly happy. So who were you with? What were you doing? What were the activities you were doing? Like, what does that actually look like for you? So, I mean, this will probably be a good chance and a good opportunity for people who are not driving their car or not walking around at the moment to actually sit down with a bit of a piece of paper and a pen and actually start some self-reflection. So what makes you happy? What were you doing? Who were you with? Those sorts of things. So for me, as I guess something to give to you guys listening, I actually did this exercise myself while we were planning today's episode. Yeah, so that I could.
You're such a nerd.
I know, I can't help it. But for me, because I kind of like to keep it simple in the way that we look at core values, because we don't want to have a lot of core values because then it starts to get a little bit wishy-washy. And so I think between 4 and 5 core values are typically where we should sit of priorities in what's important to us in our lives. And for me, my number one core value comes down to growth in kind of the well-being and the health space. Because for me, I love educating myself. I love educating other people. I love sharing experiences, but also hearing other people's experiences. And it really comes down to, becoming, for me, the best version of myself that I can be for me, but also for those that are around me as well. So growth, if I had to categorize my number one, would probably be one of my core values.
Okay.
What about you?
I love that because you've said something that's really important, and I'm going to push this point in our podcast today. You said something about if you are in alignment with your growth, you're not just doing it for yourself. That has an impact on people around you. So we are social creatures. So of course we are going to do things for intrinsic motivations, but also for extrinsic motivations. So the more aligned you are to your life and to your values, you are going to be more in harmony with yourself. You're going to be living from a space of integrity, and that will allow you to show up to situations in a really genuine way. Yep. And I think that is absolutely crucial in today's world and in the way that we interact with each other, because I think what so much technology and social media and filters and the way we portray ourselves is creating a really big separation between who we genuinely are and how we are portraying ourselves to the world. Yeah,
but the pressures as well of what we think we're supposed to be,
totally.
Which is completely not true, because we're like, okay, well, you have to have all of these things to be happy. You have to do all of these things to be happy. But a lot of the time you go through life, we might be studying or getting an apprenticeship, or then you're working, and then you have relationships and families and marriage and all those sorts of things. And then it's not until you stop being busy that you have a chance to self-reflect and go, hang on a second. This is a lot of social pressure that's being placed on me to have all of these things. And a lot of people come and sit in my office and like, well, I've got all of these things. All the areas of my life are going really, really well, but I'm not happy. And it's like, okay, this is something that we definitely need to have a look at, because you can have everything going for you and you can still be unhappy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I didn't do my homework like Tracey did, but I did something nerdier. I wrote a whole chapter of my book about values.
Let's give that a plug.
So one of the things that I really talk about in that chapter is what Tracey has already said, self-awareness, taking the time out to realize who you are, like what do you actually stand for? And there will be different phases in our lives where our values will actually change because we're changing and we're constantly evolving. So one of the things that I really sort of encourage people to do is sit down and actually think about, are my belief systems and my value systems, are they things that I have consciously chosen, or are they things that have been handed down to me through family traditions or cultural or religious traditions or social pressures that I have just taken on? Because going through that process, and it can be like a real eye-opening experience, right? It can be like, actually, I think that, we should eat meat and potatoes every day because everyone in my family has always done it. But actually I feel stodgy, or it makes me have a tummy ache or whatever. So really sitting down and realizing, why am I doing the things that I'm doing, is a really great place to start and to dig deep. Like, your values are massive. Like, values drive behavior, and they drive the way that we engage with other people. So if we are not being authentic, that is internally going to create disharmony within your energy system, within your emotional balance, and this ultimately leads to activating your body's stress mechanism. So in the long term, that means disease. So not only are we looking at you having a more fulfilling life, but it's about you having a better quality of life. So if I look forward to my holidays every year or several times a year, that's amazing. But I want to feel like my life represents my values. So if one of my values is being in nature, that's why I commit to having frozen toes every morning and splashing in the cold water, or going for forest walks, or even making a fire. I absolutely love making a fire, right? So
there's something very tribal about that.
Totally. And it connects us to the elements of nature. And the more connected we are to the elements of nature, the more in harmony we are, because we're going into those natural earth cycles.
It's funny you bring that up, because just recently we had some friends over for a barbecue, and my hubby loves his fire pit. Like, he would be down by his fire pit every day if he could be. And the kids were playing. It was a Sunday night, so everyone was supposed to be getting home to put the kids to bed, and we were supposed to put Charlotte to bed. But we just got mesmerised by the fire pit, and we ended up staying down and just sitting around talking for like hours. And before we knew it, it was 8:30, 9 o'clock. And we're like, oh my,
rebel.
I know. This is a school night, right? When you got kids, like, that's late. Those kids are going to be cray. I tell you what. But we just couldn't help it, because it was just so calming and relaxing and nurturing. And there was just such the energy was just so fulfilling that no one wanted to get up and to remove themselves from such a calm space. And I really encourage people to find that natural element that works for them, that creates a calm space, because you detach from everything going on in the outside world. You just come into yourself and you're with those people. I mean, we were so present in our conversations. I mean, they were fun, like, it was just funny conversations. It wasn't anything too political or in depth. It doesn't need to be that way, but we were all just so present with each other, and it was just calming and relaxing and a really great, nourishing experience.
And I love that, because I'm going to get a little bit geeky here, because what that is creating is the ability to bond, right, with the people that you love in a space that is calming, as you said, right? You are using elements of nature, and when we are in those elements, we go into a natural, harmonious state. And what is actually being created is you are strengthening the neuroassociation of those people and nature and feeling calm and joyful and loved in your brain with that experience. Because when we have those experiences that are mesmerizing, that is also a really great way of understanding that is one of your core values, right?
I know, and it's funny you say that.
Connection.
Have you seen it?
No,
it's number 2 on my list here. Quality time with those I love.
Right. So
yes.
You are already. So when we get out of our heads a little bit and go into our hearts more, and we start to go, how do I feel in this situation? That's one of your signs that is a core value. Mm-hmm. If you absolutely love splashing around in the water, that's one of your core values. If you absolutely love hosting a dinner party for your friends and you feel amazing, and even doing the dishes is joy because everyone's had such a great night.
Yeah.
That's one of your core values.
Yeah.
So I love that story, because I can so resonate with that. I absolutely love a fire. I'm a little bit like Drew. If I could make a fire every night, you'd go through a lot of wood.
Yeah.
But it's just such
I often worry about what's going on around the house, because if he runs out, what's he going to burn next? But anyway,
the terrace is going to be gone.
I know, right? That beautiful veranda, the deck is gone. But look, yes, that is now. If you are writing notes and you are thinking and you are reflecting on this, my number 2, and I'm not saying these are in order, by the way, this is just the second thing I wrote down, was quality time with others and with those that I love, because I love connecting with others, with other souls, and I love to relate with people in a common space and share experiences, because I think that it creates a space of authenticity, and it allows you to be vulnerable and create a safe space for others to contribute as well. Because let's face it, in the social platform, it's very much about perfectionism and looking a certain way, being a certain way, not making mistakes, not failing, all of those things. And it's such a massive pressure on people. And so when you create an open space and grounding yourself so significantly, like around a natural element, it allows you to be vulnerable and to talk in an open way with others and share those experiences.
Totally. I love that.
So that was my number 2. Funnily enough, and I know we keep bringing up traveling quite a lot, but that's number 3 on my list, but it's more around freedom. So I love
freedom's one of my
I love the sense of freedom. Yeah. I love the sense of adventure and being able to learn about different cultures, explore, go into nature and places that I have never been before. So, I mean, I've traveled quite significantly in Australia, so I'm kind of aware of what's here. So hopefully our borders open soon. Who knows what's going to happen? But I am missing that connection to, exploring and having adventures. And that doesn't necessarily mean from a native nature type perspective. I mean, like even cities and cultures.
That novel experience, right?
Like what's going on here, and like what can I learn, and what are these people
do
and
it here?
What's going on here? Like I just like a sponge. I love to like have those adventures, and I particularly love having them with my hubby because it's such a great bonding and connective time with us. And you and I have even like traveled down south and like walked through the rainforest and camped on the waterside, and it was beautiful, right? And just getting that sense of adventure is just so important to me as well. Like, how does that kind of resonate with you?
Absolutely. And I think, you and I are really similar in those, in those aspects in terms of connecting and nature and exploring, having new experiences. And from a neurological perspective, if we're looking at brain health, it's really, really significant to have new experiences on a regular basis because it recruits different parts of the brain that generally lie dormant. So if you want to be really, really healthy as you're getting older, super important to have new experiences. So really important to break that routine and to look at maybe, when I used to live in Chile, I used to go on these like spiritual journeys, right? I had a cousin that was like sort of like a shaman, and would go up into the desert and just have these like spiritual expeditions where
That sounds divine.
it's so cool. I
Yeah.
really, really miss it actually. I really, really miss my family. And I hope the borders open, soon, because I absolutely love traveling, and that whole experience that you were, talking about, just new things, new smells, flavors,
different foods
landscape,
and
all of that.
landscapes. Yeah.
But so I used to go on these expeditions with Roberto up into the mountains, and it was a spiritual journey. So we'd drive 7 hours up into the valley and go to these places that have one of the clearest skies in the world in South America. And we would just meditate and journal and really connect to the earth and do some of our rituals and create mandalas with the feathers and the stones and the sticks and flowers that we found. And it was a really beautiful way. And the whole weekend was aimed at connecting our spirituality with nature. And then other times you go away and hold your horses. She's got a long list. You can't see her page, but she's got a long list. I just love how you prepare so much, and I just wing it.
I know. Well, that's, I guess, yin and yang, isn't
Yin
it?
and yang.
That's why we work so well together.
It flows. I love it. And then other times I go away, and it's purely a relaxing holiday. It's sitting in front of a fire. It's reading a book. It's really just nourishing myself. And other times it's like a real, family holiday. So it's about understanding what is important to me and dedicating time to that, and figuring out, as Tracey said at the beginning of the podcast, what makes you feel happy. And I know the word happiness kind of gets thrown around a lot. And I want you to think about, when you walk away from certain experiences, how are you feeling? Do you feel like really nourished and fulfilled? Do you feel joy? Do you feel calm? Do you feel that was money such well spent? Like, we have these sensations. Tune into your body and listen and think, who am I dedicating my time to? Am I spending it with people that make me feel really good, or am I spending it with people that criticize me or put me down? They may not mean to do it. It might just be the dynamic, but this is your journey. Begin to understand what is important. Like for us, for Tracey and I, friendship is incredibly important. Like, friendship is family for us, right?
100%, yeah.
So we go out of our way to nourish that and to be genuine and to be honest and supportive and silly and dedicate time to it. So really take stock as to who you are spending your time with and what you're doing, and most importantly, how you feel when you walk away from that interaction.
And if it's a negative experience, is that a regular occurrence, or is it just a one-off occurrence? Because sometimes we will walk away from significant relationships and friendships having a negative experience because the other person might absorb a lot of our energy, but that might only be a one-off experience. So we shouldn't.
And sometimes we grow from those negative experiences as well, right?
Exactly.
But absolutely.
Yeah, but if it's a regular thing that's happening, then I know we're going to do a whole other episode on what we need to do when we walk away from different relationships, and we'll cover that significantly then. But that is a chance to then reflect and say, is this relationship just too much for me, and is it time to let that one go? So just bear that in mind as well when it comes to relationships.
On that note, I want to really put the point across that when you're trying to assess your value system, you need to honor yourself. Right? So this is not about, I'm supposed to do this, the family has always done this is what's expected of me. It takes great courage and vulnerability to honor yourself. And yet, from personal experience and from the people that I work with, it is the most valuable decision and investment you can make. Because when you genuinely live and lead a life that represents your values, you feel at peace with yourself. And I don't know about you, Trace, but there's no amount of money in the world that can give you that. If you know that you're walking your talk and you're being genuine to yourself and you are living a life of integrity, love and joy flows through you. The universe will make a way for things to unfold in your favor.
100%. Oh, yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think that even on this journey that I'm in now, it's always evolving and it's always changing. So you just don't know what that's going to look like in, 6 months, 2 years. But as long as you're open to that experience and you're going with the flow, then only great things can come from that if you're living in a truthful, authentic space. So do you want to hear what my number 4 and 5 are? Because I'm like busting to tell, because I know, like, look at us, we're at 25 minutes already, but I'm busting. So, okay, so my 4th one on my list, and I said these are in no particular order, was fun, happiness and joy, because I love it. I love laughing and I love connecting with others. And I think that gives us a good perspective of life sometimes, because sometimes we can take things way too seriously. Mm-hmm. I've been told that a little bit lately. I'm taking things too seriously. So, fun and happiness and joy. I mean, that's a pretty big core value to me. And if I'm not having that in my life, then there's something going on that's, if I'm sitting in a place of moping around and being moody and cranky, oh gosh, why is that happening and what can I do to change that? It's all about, keeping perspective of life too, and having and allowing yourself to experience joy. So important.
And that's one of the reasons why we do this, right?
Exactly, because how much of a giggle do we have? We love it. You should see the behind the scenes. But anyway, and my last one, which you did actually touch on before about your beautiful trips with your cousin, is the spirituality. Like for me, that's a big one. Connecting with the universe, connection with myself, connection with the moment, and having open-mindedness. That's finding that inner peace. So for me, spirituality is a really big one. And, I go to temple quite regularly and, Buddhism is quite significant in my life. And so for me, that really grounds and gives me perspective on the world. So it's a really valuable core value to me.
I love that. And I'm going to add to that because, you identify with the Buddhist tradition. And I don't identify or subscribe to anything that is like an organized religion because I feel that I'm quite eclectic. But I guess I'm so connected to the energy of Pachamama, nature, Mother Earth, right? And that comes from all of that shamanic sort of lineage that I have. So I'm going to share a story with our listeners that I think is quite pertinent. So Tracey and I went on this beautiful camping trip down south. It would have been like a year and a half ago or something like that.
Yeah.
And we went to this magnificent place where there are stingrays that come up to the shore.
Like little puppy dogs, aren't they?
They're just
so
absolutely
beautiful.
divine.
Yeah.
And you camp maybe 100 meters from the beach. It's just the most beautiful energy. And it's one of my favorite spots. And we were there at a time where there was going to be a meteor shower.
Oh, gosh.
Coming over,
yes.
right?
Wow.
And Trace and I had been sort of like reading and swimming and walking and meditating and being silly and giggling, right? And we were both fascinated by the night sky. And we took our doonas down to the beach and we lay on the beach. It was pitch black and we watched these stars, right? And it was just so magnificent. And I don't know what you remember, but...
Well, I remember. Do you remember the one that hit the surface and exploded?
Yes.
Oh, my God, that freaked me out. I was like, oh, my God, I've never seen anything like that. I was like, oh, my God. It's incredible because... Like I don't ever remember doing anything like that before where I've just taken my doona down to the beach, laid like just staring at the stars. Like we were literally just waiting and things were flying around everywhere.
It was so active. It was really active. Yeah. And I think like that sensation of there is a world out there that is so much bigger than us and we're like observing, we're witnessing this unfolding of planets and stars and meteors, and you can see it with the naked eye. it was just such a transformative experience. And it was, and there were a couple of scary experiences that we won't go into.
Well, there was a star that seemed to get bigger and was coming towards us. And at that point, we were quickly.
But anyway, that's another chapter. But it's so important because oftentimes we get so caught up in the 3D, mundane, routine life that we don't think about bigger things. And this is sometimes when we get serious, we get stressed out, or we get a little bit, kind of stagnant in our energy. So when you have, and look, sometimes all you need to do, I was planning on going up to the observatory to look at the full moon the other day, and I just couldn't make it. But sometimes all you need to do is just think about, okay, I really like having a giggle. I'm just going to go see a comedy show and just have a really fun night.
Yeah.
Because these experiences make us realize that there are bigger things out there other than what's going on in our heads and in our lives, and it connects us to a bigger picture. And I think that when we are connected to that bigger picture, it allows us to feel a little bit lighter. It allows us to feel a little bit more aligned. And when you're in that space, it's easier to do that assessment of yourself. It's easier to kind of go into that introspection because you're doing it with a more playful energy rather than this serious, oh my gosh, am I living my life according to my values? No, oh shit, right?
Yeah.
Like it allows us to kind of go, oh yeah, there are like stars exploding in our atmosphere. Amazing.
I mean,
cool.
Drew and I went to the Perth Observatory for a date night once, and it really gives you perspective on life, right? Because you've got all of these galaxies and star constellations and all sorts of stuff going on up there, and you just get so caught up in everything going on the ground down here, you forget that there is
whole universe.
Oh my gosh, it's phenomenal. And they're saying, these stars are 11 million light years away, and your brain can't even
that. What does that mean?
Yeah. And like me, I do a lot in quantum physics, and I do a lot of reading into that as well, and that's a whole other discussion. But it does give you perspective in that there is so much going on outside there. Just to keep it real.
Yeah.
Keep your life simple, keep it real, live to your truth. Be a good person, be kind. And
kindness is a massive one.
It's a massive one.
So I want to leave some of our listeners with a couple of tips. One of them is when you start a gratitude journal, that is going to be a fast tracking device to allow you to understand what it is that you genuinely value, right? So I value my family, I value my friendships, I value nature, spirituality. What do you value? What are you grateful for? And then I want you to embody that. So don't just think about it. Feel it. What sensation do you get? Is it a sense of peace? Is it love? Is it like a sense of, oh my gosh, I feel so blessed? Or, and then I want you to actually action that. Do you value your friends? Tell them. Just send a text message. Make time to allow, if you were to do like a time tally as to what your day or your week looks like, see how much time you're actually dedicating to the things that you value. And then I'll tell you whether you genuinely value them or not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that is your biggest sign to pick up. And if you're finding that you are time poor, and I say this to my patients all the time, if you are time poor and you can't do a 45-minute meditation, I am sure that I can find 10 minutes in your day that you can do a 10-minute meditation.
Mm-hmm. Right? A lot of it's procrastination.
So
yeah,
the more, and I know that, people's to-do lists are really big, but trust us, guys. The more you begin to live in accordance to your values, the better you're going to feel within yourself, and the more beautifully you are going to be able to present yourself to the world and the people that you value.
Love it. And I think that's a great place to end. So I hope that if you're writing lots of notes, like me, you've written down now and you've had a chance to kind of reflect on what's important to you, and you can start living through that accordingly. And so, yeah, we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening.
The information, views and opinions expressed on this podcast should not be used or treated as a substitute for nutritional, medical, psychological or other advice by a qualified health professional. Hosts and guests on the podcast express their own opinions, experiences and conclusions. Nothing in the podcast should be used to diagnose, treat, cure or prevent any medical condition. The podcast is not intended to replace any medical or mental health treatment. All information and advice provided is for general well-being and does not take individual cases into consideration. Neither Tracey Soltis, Kali Alfaro, or any sponsor endorse the opinions, views or conclusions expressed or shared on the podcast. Tracey Soltis and Kali Alfaro take no responsibility for any symptoms or consequences as a direct or indirect result of the podcast.